Run your finger along your forehead, right above your eyes. It's flat, smooth, there's nothing there. Now do the same thing on a Neanderthal skull. There's a shelf of bone, a thick ridge jutting out over the eye sockets like a permanent helmet. Same family, same genus. We split maybe 600,000 years ago. So where did yours go? Here's a stranger comparison. Take a wolf skull. Heavy jaw, long snout, hard lines. Now take a dog skull. Smaller, rounder, shorter face. Almost babyish. The difference between that wolf and that dog is the same difference as between a Neanderthal and you. And that is not a coincidence. Because you are not looking at a wild animal. You're looking at a tame one. And nobody did it to you. You did it to yourselves. So, next 10 minutes. A Soviet fox farm that accidentally explained your face. A checklist for spotting a domesticated animal that you tick almost every box on. 1,400 skulls that show your ancestors getting gentler, right as civilization exploded. The reason the meanest humans lost, and why the Neanderthals, who never got tame, aren't here anymore. Let's get into it. 1959, Siberia. A Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev starts an experiment that shouldn't have worked. He buys silver foxes from a fur farm. Wild, snappy, terrified of people. And he starts breeding them for exactly one thing. Not size, not coat, not health, tameness. That's the entire list. Every generation he tests each cub. Which ones don't flinch? Which ones come closer instead of backing away? Those get to breed. Nobody else does. Within 6 generations, 6 years, he has foxes that lick his hands, that wag their tails when he walks in, that whine when he leaves. Basically dogs, built from scratch in under a decade. But that's not the strange part. Because the foxes start changing in ways nobody selected for. Their ears go floppy, their tails curl up, white patches appear in their fur, a star on the forehead, spots on the paws. Their snouts get shorter and rounder, their skulls shrink. Their stress hormones drop to about half. They even lose the musky fox smell. Belyaev never selected for a single one of those things. He selected for friendly. The rest came along for the ride. Scientists call that package the domestication syndrome. And it turns up almost everywhere we tame something. Dogs, pigs, goats, cattle, rabbits. The same weird bundle, over and over. Now, I'll be straight with you. Some researchers have pushed back on how tidy this story is. There's a real argument about whether those fur farm foxes were already partly tame before Belyaev got them. That fight's still going, but the core result holds. Select for friendly, and the body changes with it. So here's an uncomfortable exercise. Let's take that checklist, the one for spotting a domesticated animal, and run it on you. Smaller skull than your wild ancestors? Check. Yours is smaller than a Neanderthal's. Shorter, flatter face, tucked under the brain instead of pushed out front? Check. Juvenile features held into adulthood. Looking young compared to your ancestors? Check. Reduced brow ridge? Check. Men's faces drifting closer to women's? Check. Lower baseline aggression? Check. Breeding year-round, unlike basically every wild mammal? Check. Very much check. Sit with that for a second. You just filled out an animal domestication form. And you passed. The only box we're really missing is floppy ears. Give it time. And this isn't a vibe. Somebody went and measured it. 2014. A researcher named Robert Sierri and his colleagues do something tedious and brilliant. They measure more than 1,400 human skulls, 13 of them older than 80,000 years, 41 from between 10 and 38,000 years ago, and over 1,300 modern skulls from 30 different populations around the world. They're hunting for a trend. They find one. Over time, the brow ridge shrinks. The upper face gets shorter. Heavy brows out, rounder heads in. Steadily, everywhere, every population. And those exact changes have a known cause. They track the action of testosterone on the skeleton. Less testosterone working on your bones, flatter brow, rounder face. Now here's where it gets good. Modern humans show up in the fossil record around 200,000 years ago. And then, for 150,000 years, basically nothing happens. Same tools, same rocks, same everything. Then, around 50,000 years ago, the whole thing detonates at once. Bone and antler tools, projectile weapons, heat-treated flint, fishing gear, grindstones, art on cave walls. The entire modern human package in one burst. And it lines up with the faces getting gentler. The team's argument is this. Human society leapt forward when humans started being nicer to each other. You can't trade a tool with a stranger you're trying to kill. You can't learn a technique from someone you can't stand to be near. Tolerance had to come first. Then culture could explode. And to be honest with you, bones only tell you so much. The researchers are careful about this. They can't tell whether those humans had less testosterone in circulation or just fewer receptors for it. The skull shows the effect, not the mechanism. But then the geneticists showed up, and they brought receipts. A team in Barcelona, led by Cedric Bex, did the obvious thing that nobody had done. They took the genomes of domesticated species and compared them to their wild versions, looking for the genes that flip when something goes from wild to tame. Then they took that list of domestication genes and ran it against the modern human genome. There was a statistically significant overlap. Our genome carries a real chunk of the same domestication-linked genes as domesticated animals. And then they ran the identical test on Neanderthals and Denisovans. The overlap wasn't there. Let that sit. The domestication signature shows up in us. It does not show up in our wild cousins. Later, the same lab went further with a gene called BAZ1B. Think of it as a foreman. It manages neural crest cells, the cells that build your face. Turn BAZ1B down, and faces come out softer, smaller, more juvenile. It's the same developmental lever that gets pulled when a wolf becomes a dog. They found BAZ1B affects a large set of genes carrying mutations that are common in every living human population and missing from the archaic genomes we have. Which means your face isn't soft by accident. It was built soft by the same genetic switch we use when we tame something else. Okay, if this actually happened, who ran the experiment? Nobody set up a fox farm for humans. We did it to each other, quietly, over thousands of generations. It's called self-domestication, and the mechanism is brutally simple. The aggressive ones stopped winning. Picture a small band, the guy who's constantly starting fights, hoarding food, terrorizing everyone. He's not an alpha, he's a problem. And in a group of humans with language and planning and sharp objects, problems get solved, permanently. Meanwhile, the tolerant ones, the ones people wanted around, wanted to share with, wanted to raise kids with, they got more chances. Generation after generation, we selected each other for friendly. Exactly what Belyaev did to his foxes, just slower, and without noticing. And we're not even the only ones. Look at bonobos. They split off from chimpanzees and took the tame road. Bonobo males don't get the testosterone flood at puberty that chimp males do. Under stress, a chimp makes more testosterone. A bonobo makes more cortisol instead. And it's written on the face. As one researcher put it, it's very hard to find a brow ridge on a bonobo. Two species, same experiment, same result. Nature ran it twice. And then there's the group that didn't. For decades, we assumed the Neanderthals lost to the climate, or lost a straight fight with us. Recent work points somewhere else entirely. The decisive difference may not have been weather or weapons. It was social connectivity. We built bigger, looser, more flexible networks. We could tolerate strangers, trade with them, learn from them. They were stronger than us. Their brains were, on average, bigger than ours. And we out-friended them. So let's put it together. Every early human skull you've ever seen looks harder than yours. Heavier brow, bigger face, more bone. And every single step from them to you runs in the same direction as wolf to dog. There's one last piece, and it's the one nobody likes. Over the last 10 to 20,000 years, human brains got smaller. Skeletal evidence from every inhabited continent shows it. Roughly a tenth of the volume. Gone. And this one is genuinely contested. Some researchers argue the dataset is too thin and too skewed to show anything at all. That's a live fight. I'm not going to pretend it's settled. But here's the part that should make you sit up. That same shrinkage, in that same window, shows up in cattle, horses, llamas, pigs, rats, guinea pigs, every mammal we domesticated. And it doesn't seem to mean we got dumber. When you can outsource memory to the group and skill to the specialist, and the answer to the person who already knows, you don't have to carry the whole toolkit inside your own skull. The colony gets smarter. The individual gets efficient. So go back to your forehead, that flat, smooth, completely unremarkable bone above your eyes. It isn't nothing. It's a receipt. It's the physical record of every ancestor who picked the friendly one. Every generation that quietly decided the person who shares is worth more than the person who wins. You are the descendant of the nice ones. That's not a compliment. It's a diagnosis. Humans didn't take this planet by being the strongest ape. We took it by becoming the tamest one. And the wild version of us, heavy brow, bigger brain, stronger body, is a fossil. So here's what I want to leave you with. If we domesticated ourselves once, are we still doing it? Are we getting tamer right now while you're sitting there? Tell me down in the comments. And tell me which one got you, the foxes, the face, or the brains getting smaller. Until next time, see you soon.